Welcome to Ideas xLab's Uncovering Connection and Inclusion video podcast. I'm Josh Miller, the co-founder and CEO, and I'm really looking forward to today's discussion with Kristina Newman-Scott. I've had the pleasure of knowing Kristina for a number of years. I first met her when she was working with the state of Connecticut as the Director of Culture and Historic Preservation. She also has a curatorial background and is a really, really dynamic person. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. We have a lot we're going to be talking about today. And Kristina, I'm going to get you pulled up on screen.
Okay.
You are now with us. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, it's great to be here. It's great to see your face. It really is.
One of the reasons I've really loved doing this video podcast twice a week is because I'm getting to reconnect with different people, see their faces, and really just touch base and see how everybody's doing right now.
It's true. We would never be talking like this if it weren't for this moment. It would be a regular it would just be a regular call. Yeah. So that is one of the, silver linings, or at least positives that we can take out of this devastating moment. But I'm happy to be on here with you today as I look around my living room.
So where are you right now?
We live in Brooklyn, but we are with my mother-in-law in Connecticut. And so our two little ones were going to go nuts in our apartment in Brooklyn. And so we decided to come and stay with our mother-in-law, which has been really nice. I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old, as you know, both girls. And I was sharing with some folks yesterday that because my husband and I are working all day on screen, mm-hmm. My 2-year-old isn't at the age where I'm like, can you go read a book? Can you just go play nice? You know what I mean? Go play nicely by yourself. So I essentially have Nickelodeon Jr. babysitting my 2-year-old all day while we work. So real guilty about that right now. Feeling real guilty, as I'm sure many other parents are.
Well, I think this is one of those times where we can be thankful that we're safe and that we're healthy. And we're not causing permanent damage.
I hope not.
And we're just trying to adapt and work through it. So
yeah, I hope not. I really hope that she doesn't think her name is Team Umizoomi after this. And you probably would. She'd be like, why are you calling me Charlie? My name is Team Umizoomi. I'm like, oh boy, we got other problems.
Well, I know that since we first met, which was, I don't remember if it was through the Work in Connecticut or Americans for the Arts or Art Place, one of them. But it was now with...
Yeah, it was through... I don't remember. It was through Creative Capital.
That's right.
It was through Creative Capital. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Colleen Keegan, I believe.
Yes! The godmother and master connector of all creatives.
Mm-hmm. So now you are with BRIC in Brooklyn, mm-hmm. and we're going to talk a little bit more about what you all do at BRIC in a little while. But as a creative and as the CEO of an organization, I'd love to start with what, as an individual, gives Kristina oxygen in your life and in your work.
I think that I really I feel fulfilled when I feel like we're making change and moving the needle on something. I really do. When I was an artist, I remember, that's my 2-year-old, and she's saying help because Abby Hatcher is finished right now. And so she's like, excuse me, do you hear the toddler tantrum? Charlie, bring mommy the remote. So this isn't going to fix itself unless I get the remote. So I'm going to take you with me. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
I'm going to do it. Okay. Charlie, give it to me, honey. Thank you. This is mom at work in real time, people. This is no joke. And we're going to see what's happening. Here we go, sweetheart. Give me. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. We got it figured out over here. And now we're going back, Josh. I really love your hanging out. Hi, people. This is what's happening. See what happens? I'm going to play Abby Hatcher. We're going to turn that on. And then Okay, honey, there you go. See what happens?
All set.
Do you see? All set. Real-time mothering.
There you go.
That is what that is. So back to oxygen. I feel like when I'm moving the needle on something, it makes me feel fulfilled, and I'm pretty high energy. And so when I was a painter, and here she goes again. I don't know what the problem is. That I'm gonna have to call my husband, Josh. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to just tell my husband to come here. I'm gonna tell him. Can I mute myself so I could call my husband, or should I just call?
You can do whatever you need to do.
Thank you for being understanding.
So we have had the pleasure of knowing Kristina for a number of years, and Hannah, my team member Hannah Drake, Theo, and I were all able to go up for Connecticut hosted an Arts and Culture Day and got to experience a lot of the work that they were doing there before Kristina was at BRIC. And that was such a great time to get to connect with and know Kristina better. And that's been one of the reasons I was so excited to get her on the video podcast. And it looks like, Kristina, are you back with us?
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. My 10-year-old is here. Hopefully she will help keep my toddler company while I'm doing this. And what I was trying to share is that when I was learning how to do oil paints in art college in Jamaica, I hated it because it took so long. It made me realize I had less patience at that stage of my career. It took so long for me to see the kind of fruits of my labor. And, you know, it's a medium that needs to dry, and it takes a lot of care. And then acrylic was just like immediate, like you put it on, you do your thing, it dries. It's like looking at you. It's a conversation. It's in real time. And in that way, I feel like in terms of my work life, I'm very much, I need to feel like there's some immediacy to what we're doing. Like I need to feel like there's a response or something happening in real time while we're moving forward. Does that make sense? That's
Absolutely.
How I get my oxygen. Yeah.
So I'm gonna come back to the question of the topic of covering it a little bit, because I think what you were just describing in terms of keeping the work moving forward, and obviously you're demonstrating having to be adaptive right now. What is that? Can you go ahead and talk a little bit about the work you all are doing at BRIC and how that is evolving with COVID-19?
You know, it's an exciting time in many ways for BRIC. We're a 40-year-old multidisciplinary contemporary arts organization that focuses on visual, performing, and media arts. And education is a core component of our work. And so we really see ourselves as like a platform for creatives. We think a lot about the workforce. And so we invest a lot of time and financial resources in artists and creators, whether they're community media producers or they're artists that we have in residence, or they're high school students that are learning to be filmmakers. And so right now, this crisis has forced us to fast track our strategic plan. A lot of the work that we were intending to do over 4 years, especially as it relates to our digital strategy, has been fast tracked. And so right now because we're a media organization, we have all this experience to bring to the table. However, people are absorbing, receiving, creating, and producing at such a high pace right now. And they're testing a lot of different platforms and testing new things. And we were kind of in a comfortable, we know this world spot. Like we know what we do with podcasts. We know how to do this over here for documentaries or scripted. And I think that agitation, it's really like asked us to like show up in a new way. How might we reimagine serving the community, serving artists, using technology in a way that is much more than just this moment, but how are we going to have it be sustainable over the long term? Because I know BRIC has been forever changed, as many of the organizations have across the nation. We will never not present digitally alongside our physical work ever again. And it's kind of interesting that we weren't even thinking out the gate, wait, we should always be, why aren't we always. And so because we've been just like rapid testing for the last month, now we know where we've hit some sweet spots. We're doing a lot of research, and there's a lot of data that's helping us understand. So I think the digital piece is and I think for almost everybody, that area is the area of focus, but also just reminding us why we're here. Like, what is BRIC here to do? Who are we here to serve? And to really root ourselves in that mission, and make sure that we don't get distracted by trying to do things because we're showing up all over the place in digital, that anything that we do must be in alignment with who we are as an organization. It's not like a moment to be like, and we're going to test out the new thing that flies through the sky and illuminates, and then it goes on. Like, no, no one's asking that of us.
Strategic.
Has to be strategic, and it has to be centered and go right back to our plan, like what our mission, vision, and values are as an institution. So that's what's happening. And so we're thinking about we've been providing our programs digitally. We've been experimenting in new ways with artists, and really we want to be responsive and relevant, right? So it's not just what we think, but what are artists saying? And a lot of them are not excited about digital. And while they value this, and during this moment, a lot of them are like, I really need to be in a space with people. Absolutely. And their practice is about that energy and feeding off. So this is never going to replace that. Nothing can replace that. It's important for us to be ears wide open to what artists and creators need.
What if you all, could you kind of set the stage for people who aren't familiar with BRIC about the sheer size and reach? Because I think that, Ideas xLab as a small, lean nonprofit doing digital work is very different than someone established like BRIC. And then also, are there one or two areas where you've really just been like excited, like this is giving us a new opportunity that maybe we hadn't thought about before?
As it relates to COVID, or just in general?
For BRIC.
For BRIC. So let me start by sharing a little bit more about our reach. We are based in downtown Brooklyn. We have a 40,000 square foot facility, and every year we engage between folks that come to BRIC House, as we so lovingly call it, or BRIC Celebrate Brooklyn Festival, which is in Prospect Park, and it's our marquee program every summer. We engage around, let's say, 350, 400,000 people, but then we reach another 1 million through our channels, our linear channels in homes across New York City. We're in 1 million homes, 500,000 of those are in Brooklyn. And then digitally, we reach up to another 5 million through streaming. And so with that, we're hyper local and care about the Brooklyn cultural sector quite a bit, but we're also quite global because everything that we're doing is reflective of the diversity of our community, and the diversity of Brooklyn is like, it's like literally you're in 50 countries, when in any one time at BRIC, there's like, I mean, the languages and the countries. And so it's really wonderful to have that kind of, as one of my staff members will say about our programs, it's around the world and around the block. It's kind of, we have that kind of connection. So in terms of what we're excited about, I'm just really excited about our strategic plan, and it creates what we call the one BRIC structure for us. And why that's interesting and exciting is because of how BRIC was started. BRIC started as a music festival in 1975 through the borough president of Brooklyn's office, as a way to bring people together in the community in a place that was not thought of as safe or as vibrant as it is today. It was definitely vibrant, but in general, there were more issues in the 70s. And so the borough president thought that this would be a good way to bring people together. So it started like a creative placemaking strategy, really, without knowing that it was a creative placemaking strategy. And then contemporary art practice came on board. And then the Cable Access Center came on board. So we really grew up in ways that were very distinct, almost like three nonprofits. And 41 years in, we've created our first institutional strategic plan that allows us to think of ourselves, that really gives us a framing to think of ourselves as one BRIC. And so that's what we're most excited about, and how that shifts. It very much shifts how we think about our curatorial practice. So rather than thinking about, you do that, you do visual, you do performing, you do media, it's what
Where
are
does it all
we,
intersect?
yeah, where are we intersecting? What are we seeing in the community? What are we feeling? What are some of the themes? And then we're thinking about that from a production standpoint. So the strategic plan has allowed us to move away from a discipline focus and more of a operational, so to speak, focus. So we're gathering the collective wisdom of people across departments to work together. So that excites me a lot.
I think it's been a really interesting time for so many of us, that what we have been forced to do, like you talked about, it expedited putting that strategy in place. I know for us, it kind of expedited some different things, like getting this video podcast launched. But I think we've all been able to uncover different ways of working as teams, or at least our team has. I can't speak for all teams. That comes with more grace and more understanding for the different ways that people operate. Is that something that you've kind of found as you are working remotely and trying to navigate all of this?
Yeah, I mean, we have no choice. we really have no choice, right? I mean, my mother always says, like, don't, like, as you hear my toddler, and running around. I mean, it's just the thing that I actually appreciate about this moment is that the facade, or to our earlier conversation about the covering, like, it's for what? To what end, right? Are we all trying to show whatever part of ourselves that we're like, no, just see me as this person. I'm really like, this person. I want to show this persona, and I want to keep everything else in the background, right? I think this moment has forced us to be authentic. And I really appreciate that, because we're all just human trying to figure it out together I'm grateful for all that we have. My family's healthy, we have access to food and shelter, and we're very, very fortunate, right? But I think that in so many ways, I think emotionally too, we're all like processing this in a way that I don't think it benefits anybody to be like, I've got it figured out, unless if they really do, they should call me, because I would love to talk to them, because I could use their advice.
I think that's an answer everybody would need.
Yeah, just call me. So I appreciate that kind of, especially coming from another country and another culture. There is a shift when I moved from Jamaica to the United States, that there is in the US, and not every sector, just in my experiences that I've come across, that the idea of professionalism is very much like this construct that's built, that you aren't professional if you don't behave a certain way, speak a certain way, look a certain way, and you don't kind of assimilate to like the kind of power structures and dynamics that are at play when they think of something like professionalism. Where in Jamaica, of course there is that too. I mean, we were under British rule for quite some time, so don't get me wrong, there's a lot of issues, but I do think that there's more grace and more opportunity for people to show up as their authentic selves. And I find that it was harder for me when I moved to America, and especially as a woman of color. It's like I felt, and maybe it's on me, where I felt more like I couldn't be my complete and authentic self, because I was striving to be accepted, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way that was unnatural. And so, yeah, that's something that I think about in this moment right now, where our Zoom calls, our virtuals, like, it's kind of leveled the playing field, where we're like, oh, you were just waking up trying to comb your hair and drink a little water before you come, like, we're just all trying to get through the day. Yeah.
So you bridged right into the topic of covering with the description you just gave. And for those who are tuning in who aren't familiar with the term covering, Deloitte has a report uncovering talent where they define covering as the downplaying or hiding of at least one facet of ourselves when you are at work. And you can really think about covering as happening in work and in life with different peer groups, as a student, with family. So it can be things like appearance, like, are you downplaying? You talked about what does it look like to show up as, professional in corporate America, right? And there are some structures in place that people may not operate at 100 and be their most productive creative selves within that framework, but there's still that expectation there. And so I'd love to know, based on what you were describing, do you have some specific examples as we kind of try to broaden people's understanding of the prevalence of covering, but also the many forms it takes that you could share, and how you, as a leader, as a creative, as a parent, how you have kind of unpacked and started to uncover some of those things?
Well, I'll give an example of, and you'll tell me if this fits into the idea of covering, but I know when I moved to the States, it was interesting when I was in meetings, and I've always worked in the arts, right? That's the arts sector. Even though I worked with government, it was arts and government. And I think one of the things that I noticed as I continued to grow in my career was that when I wore my hair curly, the reception that I received from the people or the meetings that I went to was a completely different one than when my hair was straight. My mother is Southeast Asian, right? She's born in Jamaica, but she's Southeast Asian. And when my hair is straight, I read very much more Southeast Asian than Black. My hair is curly, I read much more Black, right? So it's been interesting for me to just take notice of that, especially in older communities that I had to visit to do meetings. People that grew up at a different time in the United States, people who, communities that weren't of color. And I have to say that I'm definitely guilty of strategically blow drying my hair for certain meetings because of the outcome that, I just wanted to move, it's part of the code switch thing that I think a lot of Black women go through. So that's an example. Is that a good example of one?
Yeah, that's absolutely an example.
Yeah. What was the second part of the question? So
as you kind of identified that, are there areas where you're actively uncovering and kind of challenging those things, whether it's your leadership at BRIC or the way you're interacting with your family?
Yeah, I think that in this position, in a place like Brooklyn, I felt much more natural in my own skin and felt much more empowered because of, my 20 plus years of experience working in the arts, to really just lean into my authentic self and be okay with that, and just be okay with that, and be vulnerable, and to, as much as possible, be transparent. And so that's what I'm carrying in. And, what I've learned is that I'm exhausted of code switching. I don't have enough time anymore in the day. And I'm in my mid 40s now. I have a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old.
No time for that.
Me not have no time. You understand? Me not have no more time. I'm tired. And so that is part of what I'm doing now. And, we'll see. see how it turns out for me.
Yeah, I think it's, and the mental fatigue that you're talking about is so real. And people have done different types of research to see what type of impact does that have on productivity, creativity, all those different things. And when you're actively switching in and out of these different roles, it really takes a toll. And it makes me think about when we first we're up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
You invited us to your house with the family and hang out.
Yeah.
And that was at a time in kind of my personal journey where I was slowly starting to uncover the kind of more feminine, queer facets of me in terms of growing my hair out. And I had been wearing makeup, but my clothes were a little more feminine, and I had on some boots. I think they had like a little heel or something. But could you describe the conversation with your daughter and the mindset of how you're raising your kids to be curious about other people?
Yeah. So I think Kendall was probably 6 years old then. I think that was like, what was that wait, what are we, 2020? Maybe that was more than 4 years ago. That could have been 5 years ago, Josh.
It's been a hot minute. Yeah.
It's been a hot minute. So she was probably 5, actually. So we were all together for dinner, and she came up to me and she said, "Mommy, is that person a boy or a girl?" And I said, "Why don't you go and ask?" And she goes, "Okay." And she like walks over to you. And do you remember what she said to you exactly? I think she just asked you, right? She said, "Excuse me."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly. Do you remember how she exactly asked you?
She asked just like you just said.
Yeah. So she asked you, and then she gave you a compliment. She told you that you were pretty. It was either pretty or beautiful. I can't remember. But she thought you were really beautiful. And she told that to me after. But, I'm trying to raise girls that feel okay with being vulnerable and feeling empowered with a very kind of sincere and curious nature when they don't know or they want to know, to not walk away with being like, I don't think I want to like raise my hand or ask that question. I'm just going to stay quiet and then I'll figure it out later on my own. I want my girls to say, "Hey, I have a question," and it's okay if they even stumble, but I prefer them to go through the process and learn than just not. Yeah. And so I really, and I continue to be impressed with Kendall. She's now 10, and Charlie, as you've heard. Okay, Charlie's a whole other story. She is like our, I don't know, man. Charlie is an interesting human. She keeps us on point, and she is afraid of nothing, and she scares me. So I'm pretty sure she has no problem already. Because as she told her father yesterday when he was helping with homework, she said to him at 2, he was helping Kendall with homework. She goes up to him and goes, "Daddy, she can do it. Leave her alone." So, okay. Okay. Yep. So, yeah, I just think being, vulnerability is really important, and being okay with being vulnerable is important in our world, and being curious. We don't know so much.
There's so much that we don't know. And I really appreciated like the safe space that you made for your daughter to like feel like, oh, I can go ask that. And then I think her follow-up question was like, and I was like, oh, I'm a boy. And she's like, oh, but you're wearing makeup. And I was like, yeah, and boys can wear makeup too. And so we just kind of had like this conversation about it. And it wasn't a stigmatizing conversation or like a judgmental, but it was just like, I'm trying to understand you, like in terms of the way she stepped into it. And it's so interesting to me, like even as we think about the pronoun conversations or these different things that we can ask, or curiosity that we can kind of elicit within each other to try to understand each other better, how much fear or the fear of cancel culture and polarization, how much that plays into people being unwilling to enter into those conversations.
100%. I mean, I could have easily answered the question for Kendall, right? She could have come to me and I could have been like, no, Josh is a boy, but he wears makeup. But that's another part of me feeling very strongly about people controlling their own narratives and have people having agency to talk about what they want to talk about the way they want to talk about it. And if I had decided in that moment to just give her an answer on your behalf one, that's not giving you an opportunity to speak however you want to speak about yourself. And two, it's just making her feel that she could just come to me all the time. I'm just going to answer all the questions.
Mommy has all the answers.
Mommy does not. Okay. So I might have answers to some things, like speed dial wine delivery, but not everything. So I think that even in that small moment, it is an example of what a ripple effect could have looked like if I had played that differently, and if she didn't like come to you herself to just ask the question. So that's the world that that I want to live in, that people are curious, and they, that there's sincerity, and we're really truly are just all in this together,
Absolutely.
Yep. For real.
So, and I think we've hit on this in various facets, but if there's kind of a distilled way that you think about it, I'd love to hear that. In terms of when you hear the sentence, what showing up 100 as your best self, what does that mean for you kind of broadly in life, and then also as the leader of an organization?
I think I'm still on my own showing up 100 journey. I'm definitely not at 100% of myself. I don't think. I think I know who I am 100%, but in terms of my journey as a leader, I have so much to learn still, right? That as a leader, I'm still, every single day I'm learning from my colleagues and, my team members, my peers. And so I think that the way that I'm going through that is, again, trying to be super curious and vulnerable. At the same time, trying to become stronger and not to give in or to very powerful, like, power dynamics that exist in the world, right? And just to own my power as a woman, own my power as a woman of color, and bring that more. I think I'm working on that. Like, that's something I want more. I want that more for myself, in the same way that I think I do it at home with my children. Is what I'm hoping, as I continue on my leadership journey, that I will start to learn and kind of grow some muscle that I haven't fully developed yet, and bring in all that I do know to the table to become, a stronger, a better. We all can improve. So every day I want to know a little bit more today than I knew yesterday. I want to try a little bit harder, and I know I'm failing sometimes, and got to get up and, like Weight Watchers, you press the reset button, start over. Start over. It's not only for weight loss. You can do it with just leadership too. You just get your little button, press it, start over. So I'm gonna give myself. I'm trying to be kinder to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I do not take the opportunity to celebrate any wins. I really don't. I go from one thing to another fairly quickly, and I don't want to do that in my family life. So I really want to celebrate moments, to feel proud of achievements, because I don't do that enough. And so that's something that I'm thinking about now, and celebrating people who are working so hard with me to get our work done. It's easy if you don't feel like you're being celebrated. It's easy to just be a mirror, right? So I want to make sure that I'm modeling good behavior, and I know I'm not always doing it, but I do want to work harder at that, because I will never succeed on my own. Like, it's just not possible. As a leader, I will never succeed on my own. I need people who are going to be with me and who can teach me and help me as well. And so that's all kind of 18 months into BRIC. We're in such a wonderful, strong position. I have a fantastic institution, and we're at a really interesting moment in our own career trajectory. So I'm excited about what the future holds for us. I really am.
You talked about celebrating some of those smaller wins, those personal moments, whether they're family or elsewhere. Over the past few weeks, are there specific things that you've really kind of reflected on and either thought like, wow, that was something so small and precious, but I really, like, now I'm taking stock of how meaningful it is? or kind of moments that you've had in the past few weeks where you're getting to share a different type of experience that can then inform how you move forward?
I mean, I think there's two things. On the family front, it's been, even though I feel largely absent in the day because I'm working all day from like 9 to 9 or 9 to 8, it's really ridiculous. And I need to fix that. But what I have appreciated is the walks that I'm taking with my girls and just the talking that we're doing that we weren't doing it in the way before this crisis. It's kind of the wash, rinse, repeat family life, but we're having conversations that are richer and more meaningful, and that feels good. And I like having that time with Kendall and Charlie as we're like out in fresh air together. And so I've really appreciated that. And that to me feels like a win because that it stands out. I think the way that my team transitioned with all of us worked so hard to, in the middle, like about March 10th, 11th, to transition to remote work. My team worked super, super hard to get all the technology together, to get all the financial processes in place so that we could get people paid, to, if communicate as a whole, everyone felt like they understood what was happening. We were
That's
very
so important.
communicative. Right. And I think that, that happened really well. We did a fantastic job transitioning into this crazy new way of working. And I want to now, while we're in the hustle and bustle of like all the virtual programming and digital strategizing and all of that, I'm pretty proud of the way that we transitioned seamlessly into our remote work and the way that the team worked collectively to get a lot of hard work done in a very short space of time. And that's a real win. That's a thing that I was very proud of. And we had our first virtual happy hour as a staff, and it was just great because it was just that moment of, okay, we really were together. We really were unified. And so that felt good.
Yeah, it was obviously on a different scale, but the very quick and just like nimble planning that happened at the beginning, I feel very similarly in terms of we just kind of like outlined a plan and we got on the same page, and like things were able to like rather seamlessly move forward. Obviously, a lot went from in-person events to virtual things, but it's wonderful to be reminded how adaptive and creative people can be in problem solving, to think about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we can't do it this way, but we'll do it that way. We
Mm-hmm.
partnered with a group of artists here in Louisville to do a virtual performance one night. And two of the Louisville ballet dancers, who are obviously they're social distancing in different places, did a dance together where we had one song, but one performed half, and then we switched videos and performed the other half. And so it was just fun to like think about, how do you still make these moments where people are dancing together or creating this singular piece, but they're doing it virtually and remotely. And that was something we wouldn't have tried otherwise.
Right, totally. And there you can achieve intimacy virtually too, right? There are ways. Is it ideal? Not always, no. But, even with some of my friends who had virtual, seders, they were connecting with family that they hadn't seen for years,
Mm-hmm.
that were part of this special experience because they were like, "Oh, I guess we're using Zoom so
We can bring
patch in
everybody in.
yeah, our auntie from Scotland, whatever. They're all coming together, and it's, it just doesn't happen. So there are things that we're learning about how this can continue to connect us and unite us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to document. That's one thing I've been trying to do, is like, whether it's in writing or photos or video clips, like how are we documenting the evolution of things right now?
I'm
Because it's
sure
going
somebody's
so
doing that.
quickly
Yeah, there's
that
so many, I'm sure, right? I'm sure somebody is documenting all of this right now. Don't you think? Yes, you should
I think
document
a
it
lot
too.
of
I am
different
not.
people are. I
Yeah.
just ran out of, I had like a COVID-19 Instagram highlight. It's already full, so I had to start a new one. But like we have the Fraser Museum here, they're doing a coronavirus capsule. So they're having community members submit stuff. So it'll be, you know, we hope this is a historic time, right? For all of our generations. But how do we preserve those learnings and the stories and experience so that people can learn from that like they haven't been able to before?
Yeah, coronavirus capsule. Yeah. It's all of this stuff that's coming up. One of my board members recently introduced me to the quarantini. I was like, I didn't know there was a, right? Did you know about the quarantini?
I can say I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you what it is.
I don't know what's in it. I didn't drink it. I'm just hearing it's like a thing. And I'm like, what is a quarantini? But whatever.
Maybe there's an alcohol-free version, and I'll make that.
Yes, make that, Josh. I'll find out. I will Google it, and I will let you know.
You let me know.
I will.
And then we can share it out so that everybody that's watching can then make.
Let me write it in my notes. Yes, this is what is happening. Got it. It's
priorities.
Priorities. Okay, strategic planning right here.
Well, we are about at the end of our time, and we've hit on a lot. So I don't know if there are any other topics you'd like to hit on, learnings you'd like to share, questions you'd like to pose before we wrap.
I just am grateful for this time with you and for this space to talk in this way. Obviously, you're a friend, and I just have so much admiration for the work that you are doing. And I just hope that on the other side of this, that we just remember that we can continue to be vulnerable and continue to be authentic, and we don't have to like get our costumes back on, so to speak. And, you know, that we take that with us to the other side of this. And I hope the other side comes soon. I gotta be honest.
Oh my gosh.
I know it'll come soon. We're gonna get through it. I know that we will get through it. But no, I'm just excited about what's happening with the work at BRIC. And for anybody that wants to check out what we're doing with our virtual programs, you can go to www.bricartsmedia.org. And we have a Creative Future Relief Fund that we started a month ago to support us as we transition to virtual programs and to support our staff, and trying as much as possible to keep everyone whole as much as possible. So the Creative Future Relief Fund is there too. So at www.brickartsmedia.org, they can learn more and support our work if they are so inspired to do so. So thank you for today.
Well, I was so excited when you said you would be available. I think the last time I saw you in person was at the Americans for the Arts Conference. But every time we get to connect, whether it's in person or on video, you always just give me some more energy with how you step in. And so thank you for joining me today. And I'm excited to see what BRIC continues to do virtually and with the One BRIC strategic plan moving forward.
Thank you so much, Josh. For sure. You will know. You will know. I'm going to keep you informed.
Please do. All right. Well, thank you, Kristina, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's Uncovering Connection and Inclusion video podcast, powered by Switcher Studio and supported by Main & Clay. Again, I'm Josh Miller, the co-founder and CEO of Ideas xLab. You can learn more about our work and connect with us about the video podcast or our other initiatives at ideasxlab.com. Thank you so much to Kristina Newman-Scott for joining me. You'll be able to rewatch the full discussion that I had at ideasxlab.com/uncovering, and tune in next week, Tuesday and Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time on Facebook for our next discussion. We'll see you then.